Right. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is set to meet with President Trump at the White House on Friday. Zelenskyy says they'll discuss Ukraine's use of long-range weapons in their war with Russia. I want to bring in CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata. So, Charlie, what are we hearing about this meeting?
Vlad, you mentioned long-range weapons. That's what this is all about. I got to say the word tomahawks because it's been in the news. It's kind of been in the news because President Trump has made it the news. A few days ago on Air Force One, he said he's thinking about supplying Ukraine with these long-range cruise missiles. We all know tomahawks, right? They've been very effective. As you can see there, usually they're launched from ships. They were used in the latest attack against Iran's nuclear facilities. However, the Russians have said repeatedly that is a red line. I mean, it is a clearly, specifically American weapon. It is a long-range weapon. It puts almost everything within reach, let alone the Russian capital, by using those weapons. That's why it's sensitive, but it's also sensitive because, you know, we have to inform our audience that when you're sending these Tomahawk cruise missiles or any other of these sort of armaments, you have to have the launch platforms as well, and the people who know how to fire them, and the people who know how to aim them, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things President Trump has said is he wants to know how those Tomahawks are going to be used without agreeing that he's going to supply them, but that will certainly be part of the conversation. Wants to know how they're going to be used and what they're going to be targeting. Again, no green light on the Tomahawks, but that will be front and center to their discussions tomorrow.
All right, Charlie, noticeably, you're not at the Pentagon today. That's where I normally would be speaking with you. You are at our bureau in Washington, D.C. Explain why.
Well, Vlad, as we speak, our colleagues, engineers, are gutting our booth at the Pentagon. They're tearing it out. Yesterday, we had CBS News, along with the other networks, issued a statement that said that we wouldn't agree to new tough restrictions that the Pentagon has put out, the DoD, Department of Defense, has put out, that would essentially almost criminalize the idea of soliciting information, as they put it, essentially news gathering and reporting there. And we have been there for decades. You know, David Martin before me, the chalice has been handed to me. In addition to all of the networks, pretty much every single major media outlet, New York Times, Washington Post, Associated Press, Reuters, everybody. And we will have to leave the building at 4 o'clock. We're going to have to hand these in, press passes or the credentials. But I have to make a point here. You know, I try not to get trapped up in social media, but I'm interested to see what the public thinks of what's going on, because we should be very concerned. The public should be concerned about journalists being essentially evicted from the building because we won't sign this agreement. There's an impression that journalists are able to roam freely throughout the Pentagon. That is absolutely inaccurate. At no time ever were we able to roam freely. And of course, it is a military establishment. And I personally have got decades of work along military bases, inside military bases. I know at operational security, I have more experience than most of the people in the building. And I don't mean journalists, I mean the people in uniform. So we are acutely aware of what's classified, what's non-classified, unclassified, places that we can go. Recently, we've had to go to an escort, even to go to some of the public affairs offices in, like, say, the Navy or you know, the front of house, the Office of Secretary of Defense, where we would go there. But now that's been taken away too. So essentially, it's just unmanageable. So we will be leaving the building as of, I think, 4 o'clock this afternoon. I'll be packing up my stuff, and I'll be working out of here until further notice, until, I don't know, maybe there's a resolution, maybe there's a change of heart, but that's where we stand right now.
I would not recommend, if you're not on social media, Charlie, I would recommend not going on social media. It's sort of like Times Square at 1972. You don't want to be there, and if you are, you're going to be approached by a lot of shady people, because the point that you're making there, the notion that reporters are just roaming the hallways or roaming in areas where they don't have security clearances is simply false. But I have seen people who are supportive of the administration tweeting that, and then administration members retweeting it or suggesting that that's actually what's happening. In other words, they're sort of putting in misinformation out there to get the public to believe the narrative that they're selling, and rather than sign on to these draconian laws or regulations, not laws, regulations, we and others have chosen to continue the reporting, but from our bureaus.
Exactly that. And that's why I needed to know that. That's, as you said, the social stuff, I don't go into it. I just wanted to know what the public was saying about it.
Yeah. Charlie D'Agata for us reporting on the Pentagon, but from the Bureau at CBS News in Washington. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.